Hey guys, I am Ibigandscary. I'm bringing you another StarCraft 2 replay, this time featuring game number 2 in the clan war between NoN Esports and Team Awesome Gamers. We have from Team Awesome Gamers BenCohen, our green Terran in the bottom right hand side of Echo Ladder Edition. He is a Masters level EU player, also Masters level. We have Hopeless from NoN Esports, our orange Terran in the top left corner. Both players Masters level, like I said. Ben, he took the first game, and it's cool to see him on the second one. I guess they're doing that whole, you have to knock me out before you move on kind of Kespa thing. I like it. I like it a lot because BenCohen definitely showed his stuff with his game in the previous one. Zerg versus Terran is pretty strongly figured out, especially from the Terran point of view. Obviously, you're going to go some form of a bio, and it really comes down to how you're going to be using your factory units to show your personal style. I mean, do you go Thors? Do you have Widow Mines? How much harassment can you get done with those Reaper and Hellions at the start of the game? And BenCohen definitely showed us the polish that is in that matchup. Really shutting down the early Mutalisk harassment and keeping that number in check, and then eventually just whittling down his opponent by keeping constant aggression, keeping the Mutalisk count in check, making it so his opponent had to rely on Zerglings. It was very, very cool. You should totally go watch it, especially if you're a Zerg player, because it'd be very difficult to stop BenCohen if you were going to run into him. Rex first, followed by a Refinery. Maybe you're going to be throwing out a Reaper sooner or later from him. Terran versus Terran is also pretty polished. I mean, it's definitely figured out, and by figured out I mean it's like completely wide open. You go 1-1-1, and then what? You can transition into pretty much anything you want to, but the opening is very strongly sorted. Obviously, you can have the odd people who go for a 2-Rax harassment or all in, and then you have the random people who go for a CC first. However, it's always coming back to the composition of one Rax, one factory, one starport, and what you decide to build out of them really differentiates your build. It's not what you're building first, it's what you're using those buildings for. Specifically, we used to see a lot of Banshees coming out from players, but currently we've transitioned back away from the Banshees and more to maybe it's a Widow Mine all-in kind of drop with just a medevac filled with Widow Mines, or my personal favorite is whenever we start to incorporate Ravens into the build. It's very, very cool whenever people start to use high-tech units like that, and I really feel like the Raven is a very underutilized little unit. It's very, very powerful. Point defense drone notwithstanding, the autocannon alone can be very devastating to just a mineral line. I mean, it can definitely trade very evenly with Marines, considering the fact that it's completely free. Reaper coming in from Hopeless, we saw that first CC was kind of thrown away. I love this little hop, skip, and a jump that he can do into this place, completely bypassing the Marines, getting there, seeing exactly what he needed to see. Only one gas being taken, factory coming out, and a CC down on the low ground because of that. We also see a factory coming up on the high ground for Hopeless, but a CC already being thrown down, already halfway done. We can see up here on the production tab that Hopeless definitely has the advantage as far as construction time for his CC, almost completely done. Starport also coming out, so there's that 1-1-1 build I was talking about, but no second gas being grabbed, so we'll be expecting more of a mineral heavy build, and we can see that already with the reactor producing those Hellions 2 at a time. Bunker being produced also, and we can just see that Hopeless with that really, really nice scout, he saw what he needed to see and realizes that his opponent is not going to be going for a heavy tech build, but rather is going to be going for a kind of a ballbuster, brute force kind of build. So I like what Hopeless is doing. He's preparing for the inevitable. He's preparing for that little push, realizing that his CC is a little bit faster, realizing he already has that edge. Speaking of an edge, it's more economically speaking. The starport just now being started, starport completely done. So we'll see if Ben can use that in the form of a drop. We have those 4 Hellions, and they can do absolutely a lot of damage to those CCs. In fact, I see a lot of people move out with their Hellions to get them positioned right around here. Then the medevac kind of rendezvous with them and bypasses that bunker that's up on the high ground. 23/23 harvester count, but remember that CC now in orbital command on the low ground for Hopeless was definitely a little bit earlier, so we'll keep an eye out on that. That's definitely going to be a little bit of an economic edge, but all things considered pretty even. And Hopeless once again just showing that he realizes the fact that that starport is going to be coming out sooner rather than later. He realizes the fact that a drop is definitely possible, and he's also keeping his main super saturated as compared to the natural. because, if a drop happens here, it's going to be a little bit less devastating than the very, mineral heavy and SCV rich environment. So we will see. There goes the Viking. Where is that medevac? Did he not produce a medevac out of the CC? Oh man. I just spent like 30 minutes talking about it, and he's not doing it at all. Where's those Hellions? Hellions right here. BenCohen is not being aggressive at all. How dare he? How dare he? It looks like he does have 2 Vikings out right now. I wouldn't be surprised to see this transition over to a Raven. Yeah, and that's exactly what I think he's doing. But I've been wrong like every single time. Okay, finally I'm right about something. There goes the Raven. And does this mean he's going mech? Usually whenever I see this sort of build, it means he's going to be vying very strongly for air superiority, and usually when you vie very strongly for air superiority with Vikings, that means you're not going to be relying on your ground units to really give you that air superiority. So I would not be surprised at all to see a lot of factories going down from Ben, but I'll have to keep an eye out for that right now. I love this little clever wall of fire here from those Hellions, just poking in here to see exactly what's going on. But really, both players are kind of at a standstill. 3rd CC being thrown down by Ben, so he's the one who moves first. We see a Banshee coming out with the cloaking field for Hopeless, and that's just because Hopeless is not in position to move out in any way. He's not in the position to move out and be harassing, but with the barracks in position to use that tech lab, it looks like he's going to be going bio. Would love to see it start on STEM. There it goes. Fantastic. And then do we see a lot of factories down here? We do. Oh, so cool. Okay, great. We're going to have 2 radically different styles of gameplay coming out from either player. We see the tech lab. We're going to be seeing a lot of siege tanks. We're going to see a lot of Hellions. We're going to see that air superiority battle going down with those Vikings. We also saw that Hopeless was producing a Viking 2 at the very, very start, and I'm guessing that's more for just kind of keeping other units in check. Like maybe he was expecting a Banshee for himself. It's a very handy one unit to have, especially if you're waiting for the tech lab to be created by another thing. And I think the tech lab was being created by the factory at the time. I wasn't paying super close attention to it because it's not the most devastating of units. Just a single Viking. It's just handy to have, and it's a good use of your time. I mean, you've already made that starport. It's better be doing something. Traditionally, I make a medevac and I go for a drop, but if you're going to go into a Banshee and you do your harassment that way, then there's really no need for a medevac right then and there. So, to each his own, to each his own. 3rd CC on his way over here, probably with those refineries going down. The Banshee does move in here, no cloak detection at all, but like I said, that Raven is so very, very powerful because he's going to be able to bring detection in here, and those Vikings are really the only way he's going to be able to hold that Banshee in check. 3 Vikings right here. This Banshee's going to get completely cleaned down. Kind of a superfluous scan, in my opinion. I mean, really unnecessary unless it's orange because Hopeless did it. I can't imagine he did it, though. Maybe it was just reflex from Ben. Regardless, not the most important thing in the world. I like the positioning of the Hellions back at home also to kind of lock down the drop. Another Banshee coming in from the north side from Hopeless does get cleaned up. So Ben just in a really nice position. I mean, he's completely shut down the harassment. Economically speaking, 42 over 56. But remember, that 3rd CC is completely done. Do we even have a 3rd CC being created by Hopeless? Yes, it is. We've got that orbital. Orbital's already done here. He's going to be moving down here to take his also. And what sort of ground army harassment can Ben do? Ben's not really in shape to move out, except to do just a little bit of harassment with those Hellions. A handful of siege tanks, handful of Vikings, handful of just a one Raven. I'm just trying to assess, could Ben move out right now and deny that 3rd? I don't think reasonably he can. Traditionally, the Marine army kind of spools up a little bit faster than the mech one. You don't have to rely over much on your siege tank capabilities in order to hold your opponent in check. And yeah, these Hellions are going to be doing a lot of damage regardless, but if Ben decides to engage this 3rd, he's got to be ready to pull out immediately, because if these Marines siege, if there's enough Marauders in the mix, and I think that there are, 1 or 2 of those siege tank volleys lands on those Hellions, and I think that Hopeless is going to have no problem at all keeping Ben completely in check. There goes the liftoff. Those Hellions don't even get a little bit of damage on them. Is STEM done? Yeah, STEM is done. Combat shield's almost done. 1-1 on the way. Yeah, +1 done, but +1 armor just being started for Hopeless. Let's look at the upgrades for Ben right now. We have 1-1 being started, almost completely done. Blue flame Hellions. There we go. Wow. It's like I'm having a stroke. Blue Flame Hellions also about halfway done. So both players' upgrades are going to be hitting pretty shortly. What I really would like to see from Hopeless is more drops. Does he have any medevacs at all? He's got to at this point. No, he doesn't even have a single medevac, and I feel like that's a strong thing that he's missing. The mech army is very, very powerful because you can move slowly and methodically across the map, produce hard points with your siege tanks, make it so that your opponent has to attack into you. However, Hopeless's unit composition with this mech, with this bio-heavy force is, it is very, very strong whenever you add in the ability to drop, whenever you add in the ability to force your opponent to react, to force your opponent to move. And by not having any medevacs in this mix, I feel like he's missing out on a lot of damage potential to his composition. However, I mean, he's got the supply advantage right now, 167 over 158. His 1-1 is almost completely done. 2-2 started for Ben, though. So yeah, I feel like Hopeless is in a good position right now, but if he lets this get out of control, if he lets his opponent get this CC that's maybe going to be a planetary, maybe it's just going to be lifted off to move somewhere over here to start mining. I mean, we'll have to play it by ear. I'm not 100% sure how Ben approaches this matchup, but I don't know. I feel like Hopeless was in a position to do some damage, and because he doesn't have those medevacs, I don't feel like he's capable of doing that damage. I don't know what his answer to Hopeless to BenCohen's unit composition is going to be, because I feel like if mech gets up and running, if 200 mech army versus 200 bio army, I feel like mech is going to come out on top, even with a very heavy Marauder army. That's still a very devastating thing. CC does lift off, move over here to the left side. That's a lot of siege tanks, and these Marauders doesn't represent a quarter of Hopeless's army, so it doesn't look like Ben's going to have any problem keeping this push back. And look at those Hellbats trundling in here now with their blue frame upgrades. This is the actual army. I mean, that's just a lot of Marauders. I love this response from Hopeless, making it so that his army is consisting very primarily of those Marauders. Look at all those scans. This is absolutely ridiculous. Just kind of gauging where his opponent actually is. Siege tanks are not sieged, but it looks like Hopeless is not going to be pushing in with the majority of his army, making it so that those Hellbats actually have to engage. Point defense drone does go down, eats up a little bit of the Marauder count on the low ground. Viking superiority going to Ben, so it looks like he's going to take the air without too much resistance. However, a missile turret on the low ground keeps those Vikings in check just for the time being. Raven, very, very important for both players right now, because those point defense drones can really just eat up volleys from those Vikings, making it so that air superiority, even if the numerical number, even if the number count goes in your advantage with just a single point defense drone, you can absolutely shut down a lot of Vikings because of that. Not a lot of siege tanks from Hopeless right now, a lot from Ben. If Ben gets these guys within an arm's throw of that third, it can be all over for Hopeless in just a couple of seconds. But those Marauders, they represent such a brutal amount of damage if they can get down on top of those siege tanks. So really, it's a cat and mouse game right now. I feel I honestly have no idea who's actually in the lead, so I'm not going to mention that at all. I sometimes I feel like I have to say it just because I'm a caster, but I'm just going to enjoy the game just like you. I do need to show you just a little bit more because of the siege tank positioning right here. Here goes Hopeless pushing in with absolutely everything he has. It looks like he's got enough Marauders to actually clinch the cracking the siege tank shell. And with those Vikings up in the air, yeah, it looks like they get shut down also. Oh, a handful more Vikings coming from the south side, and it looks like Hopeless did succeed in cracking that initial army from Ben, but the reinforcements arrived just in the nick of time in order to push Hopeless back into his third. Now we've got the numerical superiority, the supply count going 140 almost to 110 for Hopeless, and his production is definitely keeping him in this game, but he's got a couple of those Marauders waiting at home. Some of those barracks are not rallied, and because of that, it looks like Hopeless is being pushed back into this third, and Ben is finally getting his siege tanks sieged within an arm's throw of his opponent's base. And yeah, that's all that needed to happen. I mean, those siege tanks got where they needed to get, and they sieged within an arm's throw of that third, and that completely shut down his opponent. And don't forget, because I forgot, Ben at the same time had that fourth mining. He did get his CC over there. He did get his SCVs mining, so he had 4 bases just against the 3 for Hopeless. I feel like Hopeless did a valiant effort. I mean, that push with his Marauders needed to happen when it happened, and he did succeed in taking down those siege tanks, but Ben's macro is too strong. Couldn't be denied. He had a nice fresh swell of Vikings and siege tanks coming in here, and he just ended up winning just by the nick of his teeth. I mean, he only had a handful of siege tanks left alive, really no Hellions or Hellbats supporting them, and with one more push of Marauders, maybe Hopeless could have turned this around, but that's not how it worked out, and Ben takes game number 2. So absolutely fantastic play by BenCohen from Team Awesome Gamers. That's 2-0 against NoN Esports, and I'm looking forward to game number 3. I'm assuming Ben's going to make a return. I'm not 100% sure what the format is, but you know who is going to be there is this guy. So if you have a game you want me to cash, you could PM me here or on Reddit. One way or another, I will see you guys later. I am Big and Scary.